What's up, Doc? What's up, Doc?
Oh, hello everyone. Sidney St. James. My goodness, I got lost in the moment then, just sitting here nodding my head up and down to the background music. And, well, anyhow, welcome to my show today. We have a very interesting podcast that I'm sure you're going to enjoy. So stick around, listen, and enjoy, and we'll get it started right now. Hello, everyone. Welcome to one of my specials during this holiday season. Sidney St. James with you today. Throughout my 20s, I have learned so much about genuine love. And in that, realizing the importance of cultivating relationships and surrounding yourself with people who get you on a soul level. Over the last month or so, I've read a post or two from a couple of my favorite blogs on friendship and how to maintain those relationships. Now, since reading those, I really started thinking about the subject of friendship in general and just how much my definition of it has changed over the course of the last 10 years. You see, the whole reason for my podcast is just a few days ago I was invited by my neighbors and all of my pickleball friends from the Georgetown Rec Center. We all showed up at their house, only a couple houses down the street from me. We went in there and had a wonderful get-together, and we had fun. And even our host won an award as the most improved pickleball player. And another, well, let's just say he won the award for tumbling across the pickleball court every time he plays. But back to the friendship thing. Obviously, you and I and everyone in our lives who come and go, seasonal friends, if you will. And in my case, pickleball friends. But the older I get, the more thankful I am for those few genuine people in my life who I've never had to question. They just show up in every way, and it's easy. As I rounded out my 20s, and who's to say, but that was a lot of years ago, I've not only learned a lot, but I was continually reminded that this was the age and stage of life where a lot of those lifelong friendships are cultivated. With this stage came so many highs and so many lows, as many of you will agree with me. Marriage, separations, careers taking off, and other careers changing. Some with infertility struggles and others with growing families, house closings, big moves, family issues, and yes, even loss. It was then, more than ever, that we really, really needed our friends. Now, that brings me to the sport of pickleball. And that's such a special, special sport because of the community that surrounds pickleball. By picking up a pickleball paddle, you'll undoubtedly make new friends and foster relationships that go far, far beyond the pickleball court. These relationships, founded on the sport of pickleball, will have tremendous effects on your health. As people who have strong social connections in relationships, you have better health, you live longer, and you're happier. Today, many years later, I will tell you an interesting thing that happened. As you know, we're only 2 weeks away from Christmas, and my phone rang. It was my baby brother Warren. And I told him something that was very fascinating about this friendship thing that Barbara, my lovely wife, and I have with so many of the pickleball players. And you know what? Warren said the same thing was true when he played in Burnet, Texas, and now was playing in Fredericksburg, Texas. Well, what is this strange thing I'm talking about? I'll tell you my story. But first, when I come back from a few words of my sponsor, because without them, I can't keep the lights on. Be right back. Have you heard about Anchor.fm by Spotify? It's the easiest way to make a podcast with everything you need all in one place. Yep, Anchor has the tools that will allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. And best of all, Anchor is totally free. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Well, we're back. If you have ever laughed with a pickleball player on the pickleball court, I'm sure you have, then you've increased your immune system. You've improved your brain functions. You've increased the blood flow and respiration. And you've improved your blood pressure. Wow, that's a lot to get out of just simply playing pickleball, right? Well, have you ever had a high five or a fist bump or even hugged a pickleball friend on the pickleball court? Then you've reduced your stress. You've decreased your depression. And you've improved your heart's healing process. And then, if you have ever celebrated a point or a win by tapping your paddles together, or even a milestone like a birthday, or given out a free copy of the new release in an audio novel with a pickleball player on the pickleball court, then you've improved your heart function. You've reduced your stress, and you've improved your hormonal, cardiovascular, and neurological functions. Yep, some big words, right? Well, I realize some of my words might be big, that's right, but my good friend Rick on the pickleball court is a doctor, and he can explain all about your cardiovascular system. He takes good care of all of us. In other words, my dear friends, go out there and play pickleball. Laugh on the pickleball court and celebrate your love of the sport with your friends. And if you do that, you will, number 1, improve your health. Number 2, live longer. And number 3, be much, much happier. Who doesn't want that, right? So get out there today, tomorrow, and play more pickleball. Well, I've always been more of a few best friends rather than a lot of acquaintances kind of person. And those relationships mean everything to me. For me, I gravitate towards friends who are strong because they've been broken. The ones that have a story to tell and truly know who they are because their story has shaped them. The ones who will literally run to you when you call on them. Friends who support Barb and I without question and genuinely want the best for us. The soft-hearted, but strong-minded. The ones who are the same person in a room of 2 as they are in a room of 200. The ones who will get down on their knees and pray on our behalf. The friend I can simply look at, and they know what I'm thinking. The ones who can go deeper. the ones who you know will defend you, the ones who you trust with your entire heart, the ones that understand what unconditional friendship truly means and prove it. In an earlier broadcast during season 1, I talked about growing up in a small town of Eagle Lake, Texas, and making friends that still to this very day have lasted a lifetime. I've asked for input from my listeners about what friendship meant to them, and they answered. One listener, actually a listener from India, said this: Sidney, friendship to me is someone believing the best in you at every hour of the day and night. Someone defending you when you can't defend yourself. Someone who stands in your corner, ready to sacrifice on your behalf at any given time. It's someone who pushes you to be the very best version of yourself, and is the first person to stand up and clap for you when you succeed. True friendship is God's way of reaching down, hugging you at your very best, and, more importantly, at your worst. Another listener from the UK said this: a true friendship is easy. There are so many things in this world that demand stress and force headache, and someone you genuinely care about and want to spend time on should not be one of those things. I want to be a friend that is always there no matter what, supportive, trustworthy, loyal, and always down for a cold brew every once in a while. And then, another listener from down under, where my brother-in-law lives over in Australia, he said this: somewhere along the way, there's a shift from the ties of our childhood and the memories of college to actual connections that goes beyond social commitment. Our extra time dwindles as our capacity to smell the crap heightens, and that's when we identify with those that will be with us for the long haul. We might not speak every day, nor every week, but when conversation happens, it truly matters, and it lasts over several cold brews. Those that will drop everything when you call are now able to be listed on one hand, and it's no longer called friendship. What's it called? It's called family. And lastly, our listener right here from in the States said, friendship to me, Sidney, has a whole new meaning in this season of life. It's your gift to pick and your gift to choose. Build your team member by member, knowing the value of power and the bonds you share. God knows that a true friend loves the imperfect you, the confused you, the wrong you. Because that, my friend, is the real you. All at the same time they celebrate you, cheer for you, and show up for you no matter what questions are asked. This may not be a big group, but a solid and genuine group that expects nothing more than your company in return. That's pretty doggone amazing, right? No wonder I love them so much. Lastly, as I thought about what I've learned about friendship over the last few years, I've wanted to share a few of those things with you. Now, let's go all the way back to the entire reason of my podcast today. Back to my pickleball friends. We live in a world where information of life updates are at our fingertips. But don't let the veneer of social media be an excuse to not reach out. I've learned that a simple, and I mean a simple phone call or impromptu lunch date is so much more effective. For example, one of my best friends calls a lot. And when we first became friends, it really annoyed me. However, I quickly learned two things. One, that his or her way of showing he or she truly cared about my well-being. He or she is so invested and genuinely cares about what's happening throughout my day. And two, it's a lot easier to pick up the phone and have a 30-second conversation because you're so involved in each other's life that all it takes than it is to have a 45-minute conversation and catch a friend up on the last month of your life. The bottom line is, ladies and gentlemen, is making the effort to connect shows how much you care. Caring about the ones who your friend loves. Your friend. Not just your friend, but the one they love. When it comes to having a genuine relationship, it is so important to care for the one who your friend loves too. With each of my best friends, I love their spouse. I really do. Just as much as I love them. And if they have kids, I've loved those little rascals, or in some cases, those big rascals now. They're just like they were my own. It's a package deal, trust me. I've learned firsthand that a friendship can only go so far if more is not always merrier. When it comes time to those friends I'm so invested in, I want every single part of them, from the good and the easy to the messy and the imperfect. With that comes a fierce loyalty to really care about the one they love. When it's authentic, it's easy. It strengthens your relationship in a completely new way and creates this beautiful, vulnerable, extended family. Now, let's not let insecurity get in the way of our friendships. While we're being completely transparent, let's call it for what it is. Women can be difficult at times, right? And if you haven't already done so, then go back a few episodes and listen to the one that I did called The Husband Store. I got the idea from listening to a bunch of my pickleball women friends up at the rec center. And even that is an understatement. Yeah, I know. I'm a man, but after all, I'm telling this story from my perspective, right? Well, I've never been one that deals well with making things more complicated than they need to be. But I've learned that judgment, competition, jealousy, and any little mistruths have no place whatsoever in a friendship, or any relationship for that matter. However, what all those typically things come down to is insecurity. When you genuinely want what's best for someone, all those toxic emotions are replaced with selfless love. You don't even want them to have what you have. You want them to have more, better even. Judgment turns into understanding, competition, and completely dissolves and go away. And never to let insecurity get in the way of that. Actions, my friends, always speak louder than words. Don't force it. I read a quote a while ago that said, "I no longer force things. What flows and flows and what crashes and burns, well, it crashes and burns, right? I only have the energy for things that were meant for me." I love that for so many reasons, but when it comes to your friends and who you choose to spend your life with, you know without any single doubt whatsoever who your soul connects with. I've learned that just because you have a history doesn't mean you have a future. We are so responsible for whether or not we choose to pour into one another at the end of the day. You make time for what you want to make time for. There are so many hardships in life as it is. Don't let your friendships be one of them. Know when to take a deep breath and let it go. Sometimes the lesson to be learned is the inevitable truth. Or know when to fight like hell for someone who you can't imagine doing life without. And lastly, one of my things is to be present for the in-between. Most days, especially when I was growing up, life can be full of lunch dates and popping a bottle of champagne, endless laughter and sweet conversation. Other days, I don't know if I can function, if I can even get up from knee replacement surgery, or having all my teeth jerked out, or having a stent put in my heart, or having my gallbladder taken out, and I can go on and on. I want my friends to breathe with me, to cry with me. They're not only there for the big things, they're there when I can't get out of bed, when I need endless prayer. They love me at my best, and they love me at my worst. From the life-changing days to the small, nameless moments, that type of connection creates a bond that's not very easily broken. Well, I'm watching the clock and I see that my podcast time, I've got about 6 or 7 minutes left, so let me work into my story here now about the friends I've talked about and how they have something to do with pickleball. The other night, as I was telling you, 2 of my friends invited Barbara and I to a Christmas party. We attended, and there were at least 20 to 25 pickleball players, all of which Barbara and I knew, and most of whom we mentored and coached in the very beginning, which was, believe it or not, almost 6 years ago. 3 days a week. Now, I mentioned 3 days a week for a reason. At the party, all of us got in a big circle in the kitchen area, and we surrounded the great big island in the kitchen, and we snacked on food as we were talking. And all of a sudden, it all came to an end, all this talking. Now picture this. You have to picture this. I'm not stretching the truth when I say this. We started down at the end, one by one. We asked, okay, will each person say what their name was and what their last name was? It was the most amazing thing to stand there and listen. Almost every single person who I will call my extended family, that's right, more than just friends, this is my extended family, said their last names. That's right. 20 some odd different people who, as I mentioned in my podcast, are like family to Barbara and I for the last 6 years. Only one couple, did we know the last names. Now, I know you're wondering why we did that. When you play pickleball for as long as many of us have, you know many people by their first names only. Heck, there was one there I've called Lloyd for 6 years. Guess what? His name's not Lloyd. It's Loy. And I didn't even know his last name. 6 years. Now, in closing, there was a meaning to why we did what we did that night. I played with a good friend when he just fell to the floor. EMS came and took him out on a stretcher. I wanted to check on him to see if he recovered. I didn't take the time for years to know his last name, and I didn't know how to contact him. Another stopped coming 3 days a week after so many years, and it was 6 months later I read about him in the local newspaper obituaries. Another one went missing, and it was months and months later, and I found out he had open heart surgery, and I couldn't reach him because I didn't know his last name. Always remember, my friends, no harm can ever come from loving people well. Just get to know their last names. So, to end it all, thank you so much for stopping by, and I hope for all my pickleball loving friends, if you have a situation like mine, and you can't call your friend that hadn't shown up for a long time and ask how he's doing, you can't keep up for him, you can't keep up with ones that have lost loved ones and you're praying for them, and who are you praying for other than a first name? Just learn what their last names are, or get you a piece of paper out when you're playing and get everybody to fill it out. So if they do stop showing up for any unknown reason, you can get a hold of them. You can check on them. You can say a prayer for them. So, as always, I want to thank everyone for stopping by and listening to my pickleball special presentation today. And as Christmas gets closer, have a happy holiday season, happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, and have a Happy New Year. Good night, everyone, and as always, see you later, alligator. Well, that does it for another episode on the Sidney St. James Show. I want to thank everyone for listening and everyone for dropping by today. Also, I'd like to ask you, if you haven't already done so, be sure to click the follow button. Leave a short review with maybe kind words, and tell your friends about the Sidney St. James Show, and share the show with anyone that you think might like the show. The more, the merrier, and maybe by the end of this year, our goal is to have 100,000 listeners for the Sidney St. James Show, and I want you part of that listening group. Until the next great episode from the Sidney St. James Show, again, thank you very much from me, Sidney St. James.